She's a beautiful baby.
For Amara Rodriguez, being home with her baby is nothing short of a miracle. On Christmas Eve of 2020, she and her husband Alfredo Gonzalez learned they were going to become parents.
That was my gift, like to become a father. So.
Amara had a healthy pregnancy and delivered her son in August of 2021. That's when she learned she was COVID positive. Showing no symptoms, Amara, who had not received the COVID vaccine during her pregnancy, was sent home and instructed by doctors to isolate from her baby and spouse. Days later, when her health started to take a turn for the worse, Amara was rushed to South Texas Health System McAllen for treatment.
And I was thinking, I just came home with a cold, it's not that bad, But no, it really got to me. So he took me in. I was fighting him. I don't like going to hospitals. They make me anxious.
When I took her in, we thought it would be in and out, a good day or so. Because I thought, my plan was, okay, she's young, she's healthy, no history with no diseases.
But Amara's health quickly deteriorated. She developed pneumonia and had to be moved to the ICU, and she coded 3 times during her hospitalization.
It was tough seeing her through the CPAP because, she was gasping for air. She was getting 100% of oxygen, which is the highest. And, I spoke to, her nurse, Josiah, and he was telling me that, if this doesn't work, do you want to sign a consent, for her to get intubated? And, I looked him at his eye. I said, sir, I want you to do everything you could so she can get better.
Amara's worsening health eventually led to her intubation, and as respiratory therapist Daisy Valdez explains, her chances for survival look slim.
Every once in a while, her oxygen will go very low, and we would end up bagging her, and sometimes that can be an hour. Even some people had to bag her for almost an hour and a half just to keep that oxygen pumping into her heart, so it's able to get to her brain, so it won't affect her.
Even though Amara's condition didn't seem to be improving, Alfredo kept his faith, believing she would come home. On August 28th, he even left their mission home at 2 a.m. to walk to the Basilica of Our Lady San Juan del Valle to fulfill a promise he'd made to God.
It took me 6 hours and 30 minutes. I was praying to him that, please heal Amara. I don't want her to go. I want her to be here so she can hold our son.
The following week, Amara's condition began to drastically improve, and she woke up.
I remember seeing my mom, my sister, my dad, and my dad came all the way from Dallas, and so did my sister. So it was wonderful to see them, but I didn't really know how bad it was.
While she doesn't remember much of her COVID hospitalization or the devastating toll the disease was taking on her body, Amara does recall the kind, gentle care she received from the staff at STHS McAllen.
They really brought the bright side out, and they were like, you're gonna get through this, you're gonna go home and see your baby. And
basically it had to do with everybody, like the nurses, like the pharmacy, the doctor. It was all teamwork, having everybody to pitch in their part and keep caring for the patient.
A full recovery wasn't guaranteed for Amara, and doctors believed it would take years to see major improvement in her health. But within 2 weeks of being transferred out of the ICU, Amara was back to eating and walking on her own, talking and writing.
I really pushed myself. I think it was the baby pictures and everything that he put up. I really thought about it, and it pushed me a lot.
Amara is still building up her strength, but she's now fully caring for herself and her child with the support of her family. While she and Alfredo wouldn't wish what they went through on anyone, the experience has strengthened their faith and reminded them not to take life for granted.
I always have to see the bright side of things. I'm back to doing what I usually could when I was healthy. Now I can carry him and feed him, and it's wonderful.
Amara, who is now fully vaccinated, is counting her blessings. And as the pandemic continues to impact the world and new variants emerge, she's encouraging others to get vaccinated and boosted if they qualify to avoid serious medical problems should they get COVID-19.